Hey, hey, hey! It's the E2KG Network. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's time for another episode of the Enough to Keep Going Core Show. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the Gamer Xperience Show where we get together, we happy, merry few, get together to have a talk about why my ceiling fan lamp little ball chainy thing bumps into my head. That's because I'm at my standing workstation tonight. And when I had them install this thing, I didn't anticipate that there would be a workstation here one day. So that stuff happens. That's what we call live TV, folks. So I am here tonight with my very good friends, Mr. DBQ Hams. How you doing, DBQ?
We'll have some fun now with you and all the gang, learning from each other while we do our thing. Nah. I'm having a good time. That is great. I love the intro. So I'm glad to be here. And, anytime I get a chance to sing some classic cartoon theme songs, this night is starting off just fine. So
very cool. Very difficult. No way for me to convey how difficult it is for me to do the Fat Albert voice. I can pull that off like maybe 6 times in a year total. And then that's rounds expended for that year. And I can't do it again until FY19.
You pull off the voice and you're still hosting? It's amazing.
Right. Also here with us tonight is Mr. Osiris Prime of Mixer fame. Prime, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm not singing. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And you're the one with the Mixer hat, so
I don't know that I was singing either, but that didn't stop me.
So this is one of 2 that I had shipped. I think I'll call this is the one of the 2 that they shipped incorrectly. I was supposed to get one that had the Mixer trademark signage stuff, and then I was supposed to have one that said Mixer with this thing as the X in the middle, but they sent me 2 of the same type, and I'm like, why would you guys think that I needed 2 beanies of the exact same type of the exact same size? But fine, whatever, it happens. It wasn't enough. It wasn't worth it for me to go back and forth with them and get them to ship another one. Eventually someday I'll ship another. I'll buy another. I'll just buy a different, like a Twitch one, because what I insist on having is no allegiance to any singular streaming service. I continue to refuse.
So you need a YouTube hat too, then?
I do. And a Facebook. Do
you do Facebook? Okay.
Yeah, I've done a few live streams to Facebook. It's very interesting. I actually, quite honestly, if I were going for maximum views, I would live stream to Facebook, because I got way more views off my Facebook live streams than I've ever gotten from I should say ever, than like an average YouTube live stream or Twitch. Definitely more than a Twitch or Mixer live stream. Nice. But we digress. So we are here tonight to regale you with our gaming's goings on for the preceding week. So see how we do it is Monday night we get together with you and we talk about what happened in the games industry for the preceding week. Tuesday night we get together and we tell you what happened in our game rooms, as you can see in my background here in the gaming emporium / geek command center. So we are going to start tonight off getting a report out from Osiris Prime. He's going to start reporting. I'm going to start jamming out the social media. Prime's going to talk to us about how he played his gaming assignment, his Prime plays picks from the other co-hosts of the E2KG network on a very special platform. Arguably, we had this discussion at one point about down selecting to the voting for the greatest consoles of all time. I know that I contend that for me, my top 2 are Xbox 360 and Dreamcast. I don't remember how the GameCube came out in that, but that's what you played on. And why don't you talk us through what you played, what you experienced, how you felt, what it made you think about, and how that compares to your gaming life today.
Yes, that's a lot, but I'm going to do it. Triple P for tonight. So I had Tony Hawk's American Wasteland and Simpsons Hit and Run, 2 classics for me. I always enjoyed those games. I'll start with Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk was, it was a Tony Hawk game. I mean, nothing too fancy there, I guess, really. I mean, you're just doing tricks and stuff like that. But I had fun with it. I mean, I've always enjoyed the Tony Hawk games. I kind of ran through just the story mode when I was playing. You can do what they call classic, where you just kind of pick the different places that you've unlocked, because you only start with one. I think it's Minnesota. And I actually had my kid, had him skating around in that too. So it was kind of fun. He's actually played it before. He actually enjoys it. So it's nice that he and when I introduced him to that, and that was probably, I don't know, a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, he had been playing a little bit on the Xbox. I didn't have the Switch yet, so it was mostly just on the Xbox. And he liked it. He just picked it up and was playing it. So I mean, he didn't care. It was a video game. So he was younger. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Obviously graphically, it's GameCube. It's not blocky like the PlayStation 1. They're actually kind of smoothed out a little bit on the GameCube. So and even from the 64, kind of those blocky shapes. But it was fairly good. And then it played really smoothly actually. A lot smoother than I think I remember. So, but yeah, I didn't have any problems. I didn't see any graphical errors and stuff like that. So, I mean, that was nice. GameCube controller, it took me a little bit to get used to the GameCube controller. It's not that, trident looking one. It's almost morphing into almost like a regular, Xbox or PlayStation controller. There's those little kind of nub things that kind of come out at the bottom, which is kind of weird. I had the little yellow C stick that you can use, and you can use that. I don't remember if I used that in Tony Hawk or not, but I know on Simpsons I was able to use the C stick to kind of look around a little bit, at least go left and right. But yeah, I really enjoyed Tony Hawk. So I don't know if you guys had any questions on the Tony Hawk game at all.
So yeah, I guess I'm curious more, not so much about Tony Hawk, but your son picking up the GameCube controller, right? You're describing it, but how did he take to it as somebody who is used to, let's say, more modern or touchscreen interfaces?
Well, oddly enough, he told me there's like 1 million buttons on that thing, so which is kind of right. There are a lot of buttons on it. I think I don't know if it's more. I don't know if it seems more than like the ones today, but it kind of seems like that almost. I don't know if it's just the way it's designed. But
I think that they're arranged. Yeah, I think it's just
the arrangement. Yeah,
the arrangement of them. Yeah,
kind of funky. And there's actually you get the 2 trigger buttons, and there's only 1 shoulder button on the right hand side. So I mean, actually, it's probably missing at least 1 button. So I think it was just because configuration. It just looked kind of weird. But no, he took to it and he was playing it fine. So I mean, he didn't really have any problems with it other than the too many buttons complaint. That was pretty much it on the controller side.
So Tony Hawk, I'm trying to think. Have you played? Which one was this? This was 2, right?
American Wasteland.
Wasteland. Okay. Yep, and that gives you that piece. So
yeah, not an
I want to go back
or anything.
And so this is a question that's going to bridge into the next one because it goes back to Agasicles' comments and experience playing some of the remastered Kingdom Hearts. So playing games from that generation, where you had a game card for saving, and you had to hit a certain spot in the world to be able to save, right? So how does that play out? Do you still have your memory cards? Do they still work? Did you have a file here? Did you start fresh? How'd you, to what extent did you try to dig into the experience of 2002?
Yeah, actually I had 2 memory cards, and I only tried the one because I was kind of pressed on time when I was playing originally, the first time. And I just kind of went on from there. So I just started a new game. Unfortunately, I didn't pick the one that actually had a save on it. So I just started fresh, which was fine. I mean, I don't really remember anything from it. So I just want to start over. But actually in both games, you can actually save at any point with these 2. Fortunately, because maybe not so much on The Simpsons, but on Tony Hawk, if you're doing a lot of different missions and tricks and stuff, it kind of sucked to have to start all of that over. So, but yeah, so unfortunately, I didn't luck out on the memory card that had a save on it. I'm pretty sure I would have had a save. I would have had a save on Tony Hawk. Simpsons, though, I bought that at a flea market, I think last year or maybe even earlier this year. So I remember seeing that. I've been looking at it for a while actually since I got my GameCube back. So it was kind of nice to be able to play that game again.
Cool. So talk more about The Simpsons now.
Well, before we move on,
hold on.
I was going to say
we got some scale.
So, Prime, one thing I wanted to ask you is and I'm going to link this over to one of my gameplay comments. So one of the things I've been playing for over the past week was Burnout Paradise Remastered. And one of the things, and I commented on this, I think when Burnout Paradise first became available via backwards compatibility on the Xbox One. Now I'm playing Burnout Paradise Remastered on the PlayStation 4. One of the things I've commented about is how I worry, and I think sometimes that when I went back to get that game again, that what I was really feeling was that I was much more in love with the idea and the memory that Burnout Paradise represented in my gaming historical view, much more so than I was actually in love with the thought of playing it again. And I want to know, did you kind of experience that feeling when you were playing, in particular, Tony Hawk? I mean, does it really hold up well over time, or do you feel like what you remember fondly is the memory of playing it, but it's
I guess it's kind of a complicated answer because when I was playing it, I mean, yeah, it's obviously I guess there's not really too many like modern day skating games. Or Skate 3 is probably the last one that I can think of from EA, and I didn't actually play that one, but that was actually good, or that's considered good, I suppose. But so when I was playing it, I was like, yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, it's played smooth and everything, but it didn't have maybe all the bells and whistles that maybe like a modern day game would have, either gameplay wise and graphically, actually, obviously, because it's it's GameCube. But I guess it did bring me back to that point, and I did have fun when I was playing it. So I mean, I guess I was kind of a both kind of. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain right now, but I guess it did kind of bring me back to that point. But I enjoyed it though. I didn't think, oh, this sucks. This doesn't have the slickest graphics ever. Or I can't do hit all these buttons and do 70 different tricks. I was only able to do a few tricks at a time, and maybe if I kept playing, I could do more. But just the time I had, it was fine. I mean, I liked it.
So let me ask you. I mean, because I want to get down to, did you enjoy it as a momentary revisit? So the question I'm going to ask you is, are you leaving the GameCube hooked up, and are you putting this Tony Hawk game in your gaming rotation along with everything else? Because the one thing that stands out, and the one thing that I feel like we're forced to ask ourselves is, these games, this subgenre, have largely gone away. They were a staple for the first and second. They were staples for console generations 5 and 6, right? They kind of weren't really there in the Xbox 360, PS3 era, but PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, they were hardcore staples. They were launch titles in some cases, and they were kind of considered required elements of a game console's library. Not so much today.
Yes, so yes and no. So I will keep it hooked up, and I will play it every once in a while, but because of another game that I'm going to talk about later, I'm probably not going to play it as much as I probably would have liked. So, but yeah, I'll definitely keep it in. And I know, and another reason, as I mentioned, my son was playing it. I mean, he liked it a lot too. So, actually that and The Simpsons, which he's never like really, I mean, he's never even watched The Simpsons or anything, but he like took to it like right away. He's like, oh, Dad, can I play this? So, I mean, yeah, I'll definitely leave it on, and I'll probably play it every once in a while, probably mostly with him, because you can play co-op on Tony Hawk. I don't think you can on The Simpsons, but I didn't see. Okay.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and talk about The Simpsons. I see if we can burn through that a little quick, but it's up to you.
That one might take a little longer, because that was actually one of my favorite games back in the GameCube. But no, really the reason I wanted to revisit The Simpsons, well, one, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I always, I love The Simpsons. I've always, watched it and tried to play some of the games that they brought out. But I mean, I really did enjoy the game, and then one of the reasons was when it first came out, it was kind of compared to GTA back at that time, at least, because it's pretty much what it is. You're, going around the Simpsons or Springfield, excuse me. You go around Springfield doing just different missions for, your family, for friends, and whatnot. So you jump in your car and you drive around. It was kind of a mix of GTA and kind of just Driver, if you remember that game back in the day, because it's just a lot of driving for the most few missions. You're just going back and forth, ferrying people or items or whatnot. But there's some later on, there's some combat and stuff that you can do. I mean, I didn't get any weapons or anything yet, but I can't remember if you could or not. But basically you just have like a kick that Homer does, and I believe you play some of the other characters later on. But I just stayed with Homer, so it was fun. I just enjoyed it. And once again, like I said, with that one, you can use the C stick to move right and left. And then you head up and down with the other one. So it was kind of modernish as far as controls were. So that was nice. I had to reverse or invert the C stick, which is odd because I never had to do that before. They actually had it inverted, or they had it, even though it wasn't inverted, it was inverted basically. So it was kind of weird. So you pressed right, you went left. Which usually doesn't happen in most games, but so I did have to do that. That was kind of weird, but I'm glad I was able to do that. With even some modern games, you can't even do that every once in a while. So, but yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. That one I'm probably gonna for sure keep playing at some point. Once I get past my game, I'll talk about later. So, any questions on The Simpsons?
So DBQ Ham, I yield the floor to you and allow you to cross the witness.
So, my question on Simpsons Hit and Run, right? Because I kind of remember it from the day, and I have played a couple open world games since then. So, does the mission structure feel, is it really just here's the spot hanging over somebody's head? How did when your son played it, did he play it like most of us do open world games, is just kind of cruise around in the fun, or did he try to actually follow the story?
No, yeah, he was just cruising around. He was just, riding around Springfield, and I think he might have done a couple of like the first mission, a couple of missions, but then that was about it. And then he was just driving around because he wanted to have fun. But I was actually going through the story because there's nothing really. I mean, you could pick up like coins and stuff, as far as I can tell. Other than that, I mean, there's nothing really. There's like no side stuff that you can look for or do. So not that I saw. So
let me ask you one final question here. So this was it kind of crossed that bridge. It was not. It scratched that GTA itch without necessarily, incurring the GTA wrath in the time of Jack Thompson, right? That is there a modern equivalent? Is this even Lego City Undercover is a few years out? Is there a game like that fills that same kind of all ages randomness that Simpsons Hit and Run did?
I guess the Lego games, but Marvel versus not Marvel versus Capcom, Lego Marvels 2, which after a certain point it does open into like a hub world, so you can just screw around, and that's what me and my son actually did on the first one. I think it was New York, I believe, that you could just run around in. But yeah, and this one, it's still New York, but there's a kind of a different angle to it in Lego Marvel 2. So yeah, I'd say Lego Marvel 2 as far as anything within the past year or two.
Cool. Well, I turn the floor back over to the chairman,
Mr. Judge.
All right, let's quickly get into the Gamer Experience playlist chatter and start running down everything that we've played for the last week. Mine, I'm going to jumble a little bit out of order, and as a heads up, I submit a request at this point that I may want to try and squeeze in a little bit of Streamer's Corner, because there's a particular set of pertinent topics that people have been asking for help on that I may want to squeeze in. But if we can't, we can't. Not a big deal. So one of the things I played over the last week, I have formally added a community gaming task to my gaming technical rotation duty, so it periodically comes up. It did come up this weekend, and I determined that I wanted to play a little Destiny on the Xbox One. I wound up not getting a lot of community involvement in it because it was kind of quiet. I think I played like Saturday afternoon, so I can kind of understand why the servers wouldn't have been full. The game, as always, stands up and stands the test of time. It's a wonderful first-person shooter, great physics engine. Looks still gorgeous playing it on an Xbox One, played on my 4K TV. I wound up, it's kind of a nice nostalgia kind of revisit. I wound up playing with one of my game with design shop controllers, which have a nice kind of tacky feel to the skins. They're not like ultra slick like the first Xbox One controllers were. One thing that was really weird to me, and I needed to ask you guys, is I thought that, because there's been some conversation going on this week about, as I listen to other podcasts, a lot of them were speculating what people want out of the next Xbox, out of Xbox Scarlet. And we got into Xbox Scarlet a little bit last night. I swore that one of the step-ups in the Xbox One SKU was that the later controllers, you didn't have to have the goofy voice audio module plugged into the bottom. But when I plug my headsets in natively to that 3.5mm jack in the bottom of the Xbox One S port, I do not get audio. So I wound up putting that, and they still have the module connectors on the bottom of the One S controllers. So yeah, go ahead, DB.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, so I have the OG Xbox and then the more recent one, right?
Right,
And so
right.
you do get, it's got the microphone jack in it.
Yep.
So when I play, I still end up having to, unless I've got a specific controller, I still end up having to port in on this. But I can just listen to the audio running through, but not necessarily headphone. I mean, I can plug it in and run headphones, but not necessarily audio as a headset.
So it may be because I ran into another issue with a video game capture device this week doing live streams where I've historically believed that the 3.5 millimeter jack, the dipole and the tripole connector types, which when I say that, what I mean is these connectors, as my Razer Kaya will focus, right? These are dipole connectors. They just have two bands on the end. But a microphone, a combo 3.5 millimeter jack, which will have both, like a headset which has both input and output on it, will have 3 bands. I have historically thought that one of the bands was common between microphone and headset, and then one of the bands was different for each, and that's why you got 3, because they have one they both use, and then the other 2 are specific. So at any rate, when I plugged in my Plantronics Rig Flex headset into that Xbox One S controller 3.5 millimeter jack, I was not getting audio out, and I wonder if that's just because when you plug in a three band tripole connector, it doesn't work like that. So at any rate, I had to plug the module in. I thought that was weird because as I was thinking about what I want out of Xbox Scarlet, which I don't want till 2021. Let me just specify that. I want, like, I don't want all that goofy undercarriage stuff that is on the bottom of the controller. I just want to be able to plug. I mean, quite honestly, what I want is 2 3.5 millimeter jacks, and I want to be able to plug either a single pole connector in that has both on it, or I want to be able to plug in discretes, and I want it just to work the way it should.
It's weird because I've actually had headset. I had a headset right now that actually I used it up in my main. My Xbox X, and then in my OG Xbox, and I was able to plug it in, and it has like a microphone, and you can use a headset or just earphones, and I didn't have any problems with it. And you checked the sound settings just to make sure it was going through the headset, because it can switch from just headset to the speakers on the TV or whatever you're using.
Yeah, I thought I did, but it may have been one of those things where I didn't dig far enough into the menus to figure it out. So, it is what it is. I am not sure. So DB sent me a question in the podcast chat, or maybe, DB. I don't know. I'll check. I don't know that OG Destiny got 4K enhancements.
Yeah, I don't know that I've read anything about it getting any type of update for a 4K. And I think, in part, that's probably the legacy of the fact that it was built on both consoles, right? That part of the whole reason why they rebuilt it for Destiny 2 was the abysmalness of its code, and Jason Schreier from Kotaku talking about how to do one change they had to let it run for a day to make an update, right? So it's very possible that there's not a 4K pass to that at all.
Yeah, and I want to say I think I have looked it up before. I think the answer was no, but I will double check while you are talking to us about gaming on mobile.
Yeah, well, wait, Prime, did you have any questions? Yeah. Destiny?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, actually, one of them was about the 4K update. And then the other one was, and maybe DB can answer this a little bit more because he probably played it. Well, I guess both of you have been playing it. But has there been a large community for Destiny 1 still out there when you've played earlier? Played before?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
And just in general. I mean, not just because you're on a Saturday night or anything, or Saturday afternoon, but just in general.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty sizable. And I used to talk all the time. So when I used to talk all the time about how the thing I love about the Destiny community, and I think I guess I would comment as I talk about these social histories of how human behavior changes on platforms. I would say I feel like the Destiny community, that there's some type of schism between the Destiny 1 community and Destiny 2 community, where the Destiny 1 community was fairly accommodating, and somewhere there was an influx of bad actors in the Destiny 2 community, and that half of the community is way more toxic. Because Destiny players just kind of played Destiny, right? Like they were happy when they got new stuff, but like Destiny 2 players are like, they issue death threats because like their XP gets nerfed their XP gain rate gets nerfed like an hour into gameplay or whatever. But on Destiny, I used to talk about how you would cruise along on a level and you're a level 12 and you would see a level 40 and they would just jump in and ride along with you and just help, right? And you had no comms, nobody's on the same headset. It was just like these magically emergent fire teams that would happen. And I always found that interesting and encouraging. And there were some level 40s when I was around this weekend, but the servers and the places I spawned in were pretty sparse. Like on A level, I saw like one other person was typically the average for this weekend.
So I'm going to stand up for the Destiny 2 community because I think they're still part of the Destiny community. I think that the difference, I would say, right, one, to answer your question, Prime, there are still people playing. I think that there were more people playing earlier this year as they got kind of frustrated with the state of Destiny 2. But I think as Destiny 2 has been pushing out some updates to bringing people back in, people have moved on to other stuff. I would say that the PvP in Destiny 1 is probably pretty thin, except for the hardest of hardcore who want the time to kill that it offers. But in terms of people just playing the PvE areas, I think there's still a healthy group out there, and you'll still run into people, which is good. In terms of, I think to address Agasicles' point of I don't know that I've experienced a toxic community. I've experienced a more vocal community of people who are disappointed. I think there was a lot of goodwill toward Bungie and toward the promise of what Destiny could be, which is why you didn't hear the kind of backlash that you heard after Destiny 2. And so I think the interesting thing will be coming from Forsaken. What is that community? How are they doing? They had a really good attendance for Guardian Con. They raised more money than they have for charity. So, there's still a community out there. I think the question is that community, still playing Destiny, or is it built up around Destiny is now playing other things?
The prosecution requests that we allow the defense's argument to stand as long as we stipulate that the prosecution does not agree, and then we'll move on. That sounds like a deep dive topic, maybe one night.
Yeah, maybe there is something there, and I think probably we can get into it because we've got some news with some Destiny coming out as well. But I'll talk about a game that even from my love of Destiny, the game that has been taking up the most of my time over the last 2 weeks since I've been back on a playlist show, Gamer Xperience Show, has been on iOS. So has been Battle for Polytopia. So this is kind of a Civilization light type of game. It's free to play. You can buy, you start off with like 4 tribes. It was originally called 4 tribes when it was out in an early access state. But they've added others. And so you can pick up additional civilizations basically for $1, right? And so I think I invested a whole $4 into this game and have sunk a lot of hours, definitely in the double digits, probably pushing up to 20 hours playing this game. In terms of, you've got 2 different modes. You've got the kind of it plays out pretty close, I would say, to kind of in that Civilization 2 kind of vein, in terms of you can't stack units, right? But it's a smaller map. The skill tree is a little more simplistic. There's not diplomacy. You can build wonders. And you have, barbarian tribes. You have your standard kind of different warrior classes and navigation and other types of, you're turning land into different resources. So it's probably, in some of the land aspects, it's closer to Civ 4, Civ 5 in some of those aspects of being able to break down the land and make it things. But I think the thing that has really sucked me in, and it's completely that one more turn type of game, just like Civ. But the neat thing about it is the 2 different game modes. And so there's one game mode, which is your standard battle for domination, and who's ever the last, civilization standing. And then there's another one where it is, you only have 30 turns. And so it's kind of a score-based thing for 30 turns. And so within those 30 turns, how much can how big can your score be? And your score can be by exploring. Your score can be for tech discoveries, for military battles. So you can really play it out in different ways. And, just like Civ, each of the civilizations have different strengths. And so it plays both for, single player, but you can also do asynchronous multiplayer, which is actually kind of a neat thing as well. So you can have groups of people making moves back and forth, almost like a big chess match. And so great game, free to play, easy to pick up, hard to put down. So that is definitely been in my rotation outside of the norm. So yeah.
Cool. No, the only thing I was going to mention is while you were talking, I did fact check. I know Xbox One X enhancements for OG Destiny. Those were all applied to Destiny 2.
Aha.
And quick question. I'm sorry, I was trying to load up my Twitter when you were talking. But did you say how did you find this about this game? How did you find out?
Sure. So I heard about it on a couple different podcasts. Heard about it on Giant Bombcast and also on DLC with Jeff Kanata. And so I heard about it there, and certainly kind of in my Civ wheelhouse. And so it was a lot of fun. Right now it's only iOS. Hopefully it does come Android as well.
Jeff Kanata, who I did meet at Bosky at the Lawbreakers Alpha testing day.
That's right.
So I guess one of my questions, DB, is so talk to me about how this gets into your gaming mix. Are you? We talked. Unfortunately, what I recall of it is I talked a lot in the early days of iOS because I was in school and there was a period of like 2 years where like every time we came on the Band of Gamers podcast, 60% of my gaming discussion was about mobile games because that's all I could have time to play. But one of the things also is I also pulled up out of that last year, particularly because of doing this podcast with you guys, because I felt like I needed to allocate more and more time to gaming on consoles and PC, and I've just gotten out of mobile gaming entirely. So are you slicing a segment of your available gaming time to dedicate to mobile, or is this just a singular game that popped onto your radar?
So right now, I think it is there's a broader answer to that. I think mobile it's taken a place where I might have been playing Switch. I might have been playing 3DS. I might have been playing my Vita, right? So I've always had kind of a mobile itch. A big DS fan back in the day, PSP. The nice thing about that was kind of the ability to pick it up and put it down quickly. As a parent with lots of different commitments, that it was easy to squeeze in bits and pieces of game time. So it's been actually adding to my game time rather than my normal game time. It ends up being, early morning or late night after the rest of my life responsibilities are done. But mobile gaming allows me to squeeze it in here or there. And so that's been really nice. So I think that's where games like this and a game I talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast of playing a lot of Madden on mobile and NBA Live, still picking up Fire Emblem every once in a while. So some of those things end up being games where I'm playing them in the place of watching TV or while I'm watching. So yeah, it's actually added to my game time. And I think for me, it's been a piece where it especially after E3 this year, I feel like there's a reason to get back in and see what's out there, with Todd Howard talking about Elder Scrolls Blades and thinking about what that looks like on the mobile market. So that's kind of where mobile ends up falling for me.
Yeah, I mean, good place for it to land with you because, in particular, when we talk about EA Origin Access, right, the eventual vision of EA is that you're going to be able to play your AAA PC games on a tablet, just because it doesn't matter what hardware platform you're on anymore because it's going to be streamed. So, Prime, any questions from you about that, or are you ready to talk to us about Rocket League?
I am ready. I just want to say, for the record, I do play Pokemon Go almost every day. So
see, yeah,
mobile.
But I think that's the nice thing about mobile, right? It just it gives us a chance to add in gaming into non-traditional or non-spots where we might not be able to.
Yeah, if I'm at a store somewhere, and I'm just waiting for my kid or my wife or something, I'll just pop in a game, or sometimes at home too. But most of the time, I'm playing the Switch if I'm here at home since it's mobile. So, but speaking of Switch, I have been playing Rocket League, and there was just an update the other day, which kind of screwed me because I had to wait for it to download. So I didn't get to play as much as I would have liked. But that happens a lot on more so on the Xbox than not so much on the Switch. But we'll talk about that later. Yeah, still having fun with Rocket League. I probably played. That's become my Minecraft, because I used to play Minecraft almost, every week, at least a few times a day. Now it's pretty much Rocket League. I'll throw that on there. We just when when a quick game real quick, I'll jump online, or I can just do the local, offline tournaments that you can do. So it's just a fun game. I'm still having a great time with it. And then the other game that I only played one game, but it was Paladins on the Switch. So finally got that. It came out, and I thought it was coming out like the end of August. Did it come out early for like the free version?
It was available right after E3,
right?
Maybe during E3 as a paid version if you bought in with the Founders Pack or whatever. Then it became free. I want to say like mid July-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason I thought they said August.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of the projections were. They had said by the end of summer, so everybody kind of projected it would be, mid-August. They were shooting conservatively there. So yeah, in fact, the fact that it came out now, it surprised people.
Yeah. So like I said, I only played one game. It was a deathmatch, just like a team deathmatch game, which was fine. I mean, I had fun with it. It wasn't, an objective game, so I think that's why I had a little bit more, a little better time with it than some of the other, hero shooters. But I'm sure there's multiple modes you can play in there. But yeah, it was cool. You had different powers. I don't remember who I picked. I think there was only like 3 people that were available to me at the time. I'm assuming you just unlock the others eventually. So unless I buy the the Founders Pack or whatever. But yeah, I'll probably keep playing it when I get a chance. So just want to comment really quickly on that one. I don't know if you had any more time, DB or Gaskleys. I don't know, Gaskleys, if you had played it at all yet.
I have not. I have.
On the Switch, at least.
I have not. I've downloaded it on Switch, and I'm trying. There's a thing. There's a thing.
All right.
There's a thing, because there's a couple fronts, right, where this stuff plays that are sticking in my craw, and one of those is and this is my thing about streamer stuff. I wanted to get some answers out to some people who'd sent emails and written some things on forums asking questions. I'll just drop these and then we'll put them in the discussion queue for later. There's a thing, we've talked a little bit about like Twitch and Mixer, and I had first chance because I was on Mixer. I was downloading some past live streams this week, trying to get all my latent archived video content up and pushed to my YouTube channel, and especially on Twitch and on Mixer, less so on YouTube gaming. Although my problem with YouTube gaming is it doesn't really exist. It's a label, but it doesn't really mean anything. And then Facebook and Twitter have claim their bends on supporting gaming. I think are more so focused on esports and wanting to support like large clumps of gamers. There's no like. On Facebook, you could see some individual gamers, but my problem more so on Twitch and Mixer is I sat on Mixer as my file was downloading, and I looked at like the top games, and like there's like 6, right? And this is my whole thing about how the gaming world is now starting to clump and follow like 6 games, and kind of that's it. The other thing that's sticking in my craw a little bit is, and I've been pulling the thread more and looking at more of the services because my technical survey of them is kind of complete roughly, and they've all kind of matured, and I can see who does who and what does what. But there's obviously the topic of the streamers who aren't really about gaming, and that's becoming a sore point with me. But more so. This element around like Paladins and Fortnite is I'm realizing all the people who that's all they play, and the market forces around them and how those gamers are supported by these services, and there's lots of things on Twitter like don't stop making heroes out of streamers and things like that, or just so your statement, I don't know if you've played Paladins yet, is one of my big things that I've been on, particularly my latest live streams and game captures is, and this is a thing that I'm internalizing, is my refusal to follow the crowd and play whatever, Twitch and Mixer are saying are the hot games right now. Like I'll play those when I'm ready to play them. So it's a bit of a soapbox, but it was forced by your pushy question.
So I'll bet that there are plenty of Paladins fans who are glad to hear you say that that it becomes one of the popular games, right? Because Paladins has often been struggling with that kind of also ran of Overwatch. And so the fact that it is being streamed, I think that's a good sign for some of those games where they've struggled to kind of carve out their own niche as well.
Yeah. So so I see your note, DB. I'm gonna blow through it because I want you to talk about Madden. If we get to the technical stuff, we'll jam it in the corner. So my next game that I want to talk a little bit about is Forza 7. So it's a weird thing where, for whatever reason, it just worked out. I bought Forza 7 last year and didn't play it because it was not a game that was worming its way onto our gaming superlatives list. It wasn't a big topical game for end of the year, game of the year, video game awards, that kind of stuff. Forza 7 is what it is. It's a great racing simulation. There was a ton of racing competition last year, but Gran Turismo kind of took a header into the pavement of its own accord. So there really wasn't any point in having a discussion about Forza 7 versus Gran Turismo. What does that mean? That means, first of all, I spent about 30 minutes after getting the game in, which is on disc. I had a physical copy of it. Getting all the patches, which was like 96 gigs of data, plus all of like the VIP car pack stuff that I hadn't had. The one comment I will make about it, and I need to write this up and get it to turn 10 before they do the next Forza next year. The thing that was particularly aggravating about the intro is they force you to play through 3 races that don't have anything to do with your career. No matter how good you do at those races, they don't contribute to your career progression at all. You're forced to play them for the first 3. You can't fast forward through the intro screens, so you're straight-jacketed into watching all of that. But the thing that I also found particularly aggravating was I don't use rewind, right, which is that ability in racing games to like hit a button and have it roll you back like 10 or 15 seconds before a crash. I don't use that. 90% of what I do in those intro races is I'm spending time trying to tweak the physics model to get the driving model down to something that's comfortable for me. One of those things that I do is I turn real damage on. So having to play these races that don't have me in my own first car, and I'm not playing my own avatar, and they don't contribute to my career at all. But on top of that, I don't have rewind turn on, because if you have rewind, you don't learn anything from driving the car and then constantly rewinding it, right? You need to put like a full lap in. But I also want the ability where if the car takes too much damage, I want to be able to get out of the race and restart it. The verbiage restart is not available in the menu, right? For whatever reason, they change it. So now there's just quit. Now, admittedly, once you quit, you're returned back to the beginning of the race menu and you can immediately hit start again. But I just don't like having, first of all, it was misleading and there was no explanation to it. But I really just don't like not having the restart button. So just in one button, I can just hit it and it takes me out of the race that I'm in and immediately replants me to restart a new race. But I really dislike being forced to suck down those 3 races with all the introduction commentary and stuff about the cars, which like you can't even access those cars until much later in the game. I feel like it was poor. It was very poor onboarding for me for a racing game. Again, I talk to race sim designers just like I talk to wireless carriers, right? I don't need your services. I just need you to be dumb pipes. Let me do my own comms and packages and hardware. Same thing with race sim designers. I just give me cars and a bunch of tracks and let me attack that however I see fit. I don't need you trying to weave a story around it because you guys are bad at it. And soapbox.
So, but is it really a story? So I played Forza 7, I mean, back in the fall, and I got through those, right? And I actually spent probably a good couple hours with it. And I used Rewind, but as a learning tool, right? For me, the idea of using it to figure out where do I want to hit that line and figure out my acceleration, deacceleration, where am I going to, find that rhythm. I don't remember there being much of a story other than, it was a big kind of progression unlock, earning points to be able to unlock the next type of races, but it wasn't trying to. It certainly was not the Crew 2 of trying to graft on a story onto it.
Right, I call it story because those first what wind up being about 20 to 30 minutes of your game time on the front end. I call it a story because they're giving you all the backstory. They're telling you like the bio of the racer. They're talking to you about the car and a bit of the history behind it. And I'm like, I don't need all that, right? I mean, like previous versions of Forza where they had a little thing that would, when you picked a car, it would launch into the verbal history of like how the car was. That I thought was interesting. Quite honestly, iterations of Need for Speed do better when they print that for you in text and they talk about it and you can scroll the text and read ahead of the dialogue. But the big thing is in the past, you've been able to get out of that. What frustrated me this time is I had to sit there and listen to it and there was no option to get out of that. So speaking of games of that type of design, DB, talk to me a little bit about Madden. Does Madden force feed you jamming stuff down your throat as well in its introductory setup, or are you able to quickly, A button or X button through all of that upfront mess?
So there's no like, dive in and start your character story type of thing. You pretty much, it's a big old menu to start with, right? This is Madden 18. I picked it back up. I played it back in the fall, used up my 10 hours of EA access and kind of sat around until it became free. And so I've played a little bit of MUT, of Madden Ultimate Team, right? This is the card collecting and individual battle stuff there, but also played the franchise mode. I have not. There is a story mode in it. It's not quite as involved in as FIFA's, but you could choose that as an option, and then it will kind of bring you in through kind of a telltale type of football story. But it is not, it's not throwing you in. And Madden has done that in years past, where it will. I think it throws you in if you don't have the game fully loaded up, right? MLB The Show will do this as well, is that it'll give you the ability to play like part of the last Super Bowl or World Series while the game loads. But if you've got the game loaded, it's not going to sit and give you a whole lot to do. So you can choose whatever menu you want to go and kind of dive into that. And so I've been playing franchise, finished off one franchise with the Rams, and this is right giving me my own narrative to it. So I had my quarterback Joff go down in the second game of the season, and I picked up Colin Kaepernick and gave him a home and a place to play and a start, and brought him to the Super Bowl, whether he was standing or kneeling for whatever anthem he wants. So I made my own.
Always nice when you can render some social justice through your video.
That's right. Yep. Exactly. So now I'm on my second franchise and playing around a little bit more with some of the trade engines and scouting mechanisms there, and getting ready for this weekend when Madden 19 will come on EA Access for the preview program.
And that was the question I was going to ask you. So this is all you getting geared up and wired up for the next Madden. Now, Madden 18 not on the Frostbite engine, is that correct? It's the first Frostbite iteration?
So Madden 18 is on the Frostbite. It was the first Frostbite engine. It's still got some pretty, it's a little glitchy. I have followed it throughout the year. It certainly looks beautiful. It is the best looking football game I've ever played. But in terms of, they've definitely 19, they're touting some things that are a little bit better, right? That you got a little more fumbles in 18 with some of the hit stick stuff. They've tweaked some of the engine things so they're a little smoother and not nearly as glitchy. People popping up, landing on top of each other, doing pyramids and other types of things the first time you run through a new engine.
Very cool. So I know that you guys are itching to talk about No Man's Sky, so have at it. Prime.
Oh, man. You opened up a Pandora's box right there. All right, so first of all, for some reason, I can't tell how many hours I've played so far, but it's probably over 10 hours in about a week that it's been out for me, which is a lot because we get a lot of time to play. So I actually didn't get a chance to play it until Thursday night. I think it came out Tuesday. And you know how I mentioned about updates on the Switch? Well, I was going to play it Wednesday, but there was an update. It was like a 7 gig update that came out. Well, I don't know. Maybe it came out that Tuesday. I just didn't get a chance to, let it go for some reason. I don't know why my stupid Xbox doesn't seem to run updates when it's in sleep mode and but that's all right. Anyways, so I played those first couple nights, and then I actually played with DB over the weekend on kind of, I should say. We didn't actually play together, but we were in the same party, but we were playing the game separately. But by that time, it was only like 2 days, and I already played it like 8 hours, I think. I stayed up one night till about midnight. I get up at 4:30 the next day, so that was it was kind of rough. But yeah, this is big open universe, I guess, or open galaxy that you can explore. You start off with pretty much nothing, just like any kind of survival game, and you just kind of gather all your resources, and you can craft stuff. Excuse me, weapons, tools. You can build. There's a building element here, which I haven't really gotten into all too much. I just did a really rudimentary building, just kind of part of the story that I'm following right now. And that's actually what I'm mostly doing, oddly enough, is doing the story for right now, because it seemed the story is just kind of is the tutorial for the rest of the game, which is just go out and explore and find all these weird planets and all these creatures and stuff. So everything all this the game's procedurally generated. So the planets are going to be I think all the galaxy itself is set in stone, I believe, right, DB, as from what I'm reading. So like all the planets are like the same, and then
I think
what you see in the planet's different.
I don't know, right?
I can never get like a straight answer from anybody.
Right, is that the idea is that as people discover things, they get added to, you can upload them to the larger server, so they become part of the shared universe. At least in the older version, you had the option of uploading up. You would get credits if you did.
Like that, yep.
But it's, I don't know that it's, I think so. It's officially a shared piece, but you're not necessarily, a lot of what you see are things that you haven't discovered. You don't see things that people have discovered all the time.
Okay. Yeah, that's where it's like kind of weird. I can never get like a really straight answer when I've asked people on.
I think it's the nature of the procedural generation of it, right? That it's all kind of the aspect to that is that it's not a curated, it's not a cultivated place. It's something that's being continually created, and as things are added to that database, that just continues to populate and expand. Okay. It's an expanding universe theory. How about that, rather than contracting?
That's right. So yeah, so I've been going through the story, and it just seems like that's kind of the tutorial of the whole thing. There's this big secret about these ancient aliens. I'm from what I figure so far from the story, kind of weird. But yeah, I'm kind of going through that because it gives you, I've learned how to build the bases. I've learned, obviously all the rudimentary stuff, like you got to point your mining laser at this rock, and you can craft, you can mine it and stuff like that. So I've gotten how to fix your ships and stuff like that. There's a lot to it though. You can settle down. And from what I've read, this is probably one of the first games in a long time that I've actually gone out on the web and started like just reading everything I could on it. So I'm learning a lot from just playing it, and also from the community, which is really nice. I've been on Reddit, I've been on GameFAQs, I've just been on whatever I can get into. I think some Facebook groups I've tried a little bit. I've dipped my toes into a little bit, but mostly Reddit. Reddit's probably my main source right now, and I've learned a lot from there. So like for instance, you can as you're building your base, if you keep on that base building, not necessarily quest, but if you just keep building onto your base, things will open up for you. So I guess as you kind of just focus in on one thing, it'll start open up different quests. And there's different side quests you can do too for the different aliens you see on the ports, on the planets, and in the space stations up in space. So there's a lot of stuff to do. There's fetch quests, obviously, or like carrier quests was like, hey, I need this containment containers given to this planet here, or or like the one I was trying to do when I was actually talking with DB, and I needed to break into just this port on the planet. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. And there's these sentinel things that are always around. That's probably like the most annoying thing of this game. These sentinels, I think they're a little bit too much, maybe sometimes. But the mission was to go and break into this building and then like steal plans or something. I forgot what it was. So I was trying to do that, and the sentinels came. It's like, all right, I'll just kind of run around and get away from them, and I could still shoot off the lock that you gotta shoot off. And then there's this humongous giant, like 50-foot tall sentinel that comes out, this big robot, and I had never seen anything that big in the game at that point. So I just took off and ran away. Problem was, took off on my ship, I started just flying around the planet, and I noticed this little, it basically looked like a warrant level like you see in GTA, when you're doing too much crime. And it was at 3. It's like, that's weird. So I'm flying around, nothing's really attacking me at that point. So then I go up into space, and then the actual Sentinels sends out a spaceship, and they start, just bugging the heck out of you at that point. So I was like, what is going on? So I eventually just landed, and I had to I got out of the ship, and I kind of bored into the earth, which is another thing you can actually, which I think DB you said wasn't in the original game, was the terrain manipulator gun.
Yeah, or at least it wasn't in, when I played it this spring, maybe I didn't get far enough in it, but that whole aspect of the terrain manipulation, the mining tool was not there, right? You had the building update, you had the bases, you had vehicles, but the mining seems like a whole new layer of things as well.
Yeah, so you can bore into the earth like you can and say like Red Faction, the first, 2, I think, Red Factions, where you can kind of deform the land, and you can actually build it back up too if you want to. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, they've really changed the onboarding aspect of it, right? So I've played it as well. I've played both on. I picked up my save file from PS4 to see where that is at, and also picked it up a brand new game on Xbox One as well.
Did you have any issues on the PS4 side when you picked up your save? I've read that that's happened a lot, I guess.
So no, I picked it up after the patch, right? So they patched it a couple days after the next update.
Okay.
In the middle of the week, they patched it that, some people were having losses of things. So when I ended my story back on the gaming assignment, right, I had ended on a planet and I had found a base. It kicked me back up off a planet and onto a space station. I still had my ship. I had more money than I had before, and my my materials were all different. In a lot of cases, because the minerals are different, right? There are different. What's used as thruster energy, and what's used as warp drive stuff. All some of the creating a warp drive you still need to do, but a lot of the materials to get there and what you harvest is different. And so, some of those, whatever the dye, ferrite or whatever, there's some different variety of different minerals that never existed 6 months ago when I played.
So was there the, not the mining, but the, not the furnace, I forgot what they call it, like where you kind of...
The refining tool?
Yeah, refining. Was that in the last...
No, so the onboarding process for when I played it 6 months ago was totally different, right? You were still on a planet, you still had to survive, put your ship back together, and then once you did a signal booster, and you could get a communication, and then you kind of had paths of 2 different paths. Do you want to hunt your way? 3 different paths, I guess. You could follow your way to the core. You could follow the signal, the Atlas paths. You had a signal of a lost traveler, or you could just kind of continue to explore. And so I think those are still here in this, as I've listened to other people talk about it. They seem to be coming a little bit later. I am 2 hours in on the Xbox One, and I haven't hit that yet because I'm still kind of going through. There's more systems for them to introduce you to. So they give you base building much earlier. The refinery pieces of having to take. This is a whole piece where Agassicles, I don't know where you're gonna end up with this one, right? Because you've got to mine a mineral and then stick it into a furnace and give it some fuel to then get a different mineral out to then be able to craft something else. Which makes sense. It's an involved piece. There's a lot more kind of layers to the system, but I feel like they do a good job of explaining it. But yeah, I've been building more stuff through the tutorial than I ever did 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's nice. I guess you can start building until you get to, I don't know, a certain point, right, or something, space station or something. Now you can build anywhere. You can get frigates and freighters, and then I guess in the freighters you can actually build them within that to make that like a mobile home, so to speak. I guess that's the right terminology. So yeah, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways you can go in this game. Like I said, you can just explore and find different planets and all these creatures and the plants and all this, or you can, go through the story. You can, just settle down somewhere and start building and build. I've seen like massive cities even that people have built, and they have this big, huge city. And obviously there's like a limit, but what you can do. But even this huge city they had done, they still hadn't reached that limit. So I mean, it seems to be a lot of stuff they've added onto the game.
Yeah, my issues, DB, will be less with crafting. The whole thing that may now hold me at bay is I may not go in because I'm just now finding out that there's not joystick and flight control system support. That was my whole allure to wanting to play the game.
Yeah, on PC, I've heard the WASD controls are pretty rough, and it's definitely, even the interface and controls are more centered around
game controller,
gamepads. Yep.
I was thinking about that actually. I was like, I wonder if you can use the stick on this.
No,
playing the ship.
People have done some workarounds. There is some emulation software that people are coming in, but you guys know me. I'm not running some third-party gray market emulation layer with the game. I just directly supported the game. So
you probably have to tweak 1,000 times just to get it to work.
Right, exactly. So Swiss has gone ahead and gone in. So I mean, the only thing that still maybe tethers me into maybe getting it is that I may become a capital ship guy. I don't know exactly how you get to that point or how you make that happen, but I probably wouldn't drive like a freighter or a big arse capital ship with a joystick anyway. So maybe what I need to do is just path my way to that career track, and then that's what I do.
You ferry people around.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but then you've probably got other game options that are going to give you that, in a whole lot fewer hours than trying to get to that point in No Man's Sky.
Right.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to say before we move off of this, or I'll turn it back over to you, Prime, for any other final thoughts, since I've talked about this game a whole lot. One of the things that I found interesting is, so playing it on an OG Xbox and playing it on a PS4 Pro, I'm getting there's a lot of pop-in on Xbox, but it doesn't necessarily hinder my experience. It looks great on both consoles. It's beautiful. They've definitely, even from what it looked like, the graphical pass that they did on things from the next update compared to what it was is a huge difference. And that is very noticeable from somebody who's just played it this year. PS4 Pro looks great, but it is loud, man. It is running my fan like crazy. I'm shooting through space and my fan is just humming. And so I think it is probably because the draw distance is further. And so it's trying to push it a lot more. I'm not really sure yet. So I got to play around with that a little bit more to see where, the kinks are on what should be the optimized version, because it was what it was built for originally. So it's interesting that's pushing my system a whole lot more than my 2014 Xbox is.
Yeah, there's actually some graphical stuff you can play around with, weirdly enough, on the console side. Like field of vision, you can lock. I think the frame rate you can lock to certain thing, and some other things that are on there. So you might need to play with that stuff.
Are you playing on the X? Because I know the X has both a performance and a graphics settings.
Yeah, I've only played on the. I think it's not the performance. It's the greatest quality.
Okay.
So I haven't switched it to the performance to see if I see any difference or anything. Supposedly people say there is, but I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. And I'll cede now because I can keep talking about this game. We still have another segment to go through, and we've already hit an hour. So
yeah, so I'm gonna, if you guys are really wanting us to cut off, let me know in chat. But I'm gonna try and just speed burn through these last 3 lines. First of all, a quick bit on streaming, because I want to grab some people by the shoulders and shake them vigorously. Number one, had one person ask, good question. Had one person ask on a forum that had kind of a not so great article on video game capture cards because it wasn't as up to date with all the latest. Ask why would I use a video game capture card instead of just using the PlayStation 4's native onboard streaming capability? The reason is because that gaming capability, first of all, it does cause a performance hit to your console, even though you may not be able to see it. But the big difference is because the PS4's onboard streaming capability is capped at 720p. So if you care, you can choose not to. But if you care about the quality of the video content you're putting out, you can use a video game capture card and make a better looking video. Maybe some people care, maybe some people don't, but it's one of the things that frustrates me because a lot of people do it. A lot of people just glom on to using that native capability without learning the other things that are available. So that's one of the things I try and do on Rounding Off Infinity, my gaming channel on YouTube, is educate people about those things so you know what options you have. Just don't fall to the tyranny of the default and use a not great thing simply because it's there when you have other options. That person immediately understood it and then said, okay, well, what would be a simple and not super expensive setup? And I talked them through that. So that's one thing I want to explain to people because I see that question a lot. Like, dude, why are you talking about all this complicated stuff when you can just use the onboard thing? Because the onboard thing doesn't look that great. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is a couple people had questions about some cards that they had gotten and an endemic problem in getting them to work. One of the things is that 50% of all video game capture cards, how they identify their audio channels to OBS, they identify it as a separate device. So when you initially set the device up in your scene, you need to double click it and pop it open and get to the more detailed menu of settings. And you need to scroll all the way down to the bottom to the audio settings. The audio default setting, audio output will say capture audio only versus like send it to direct sound or send it to an audio channel to play out on your PC speakers. Underneath that, there's a little checkbox that says use custom audio device. If you hook up a video game capture card and you're not getting sound, go into that menu and click use custom audio device. There will be an additional drop-down menu that will appear. Pop that down and look for an audio device that has the name of your video game capture device in parentheses next to it. It might say microphone, even if your video game capture device doesn't have a microphone or a microphone port on it. Don't worry about that. Select that audio output device, because what that thing is doing is it's virtualizing an audio channel as a discrete device separate from its identifiable entity as a video game capture device. You need to select that and configure it so that OBS will pick up the sound. Those are the two main things I wanted to talk about. If you need help with that stuff, hit me up in YouTube comments on the Rounding Off Infinity channel on YouTube, or hit me on Twitter at Agasicles really quick, what are you guys playing next? I'm going to go ahead and mention tomorrow. I've been live streaming Burnout Paradise. Tomorrow I'm going to switch over to Desktop 2, which is the orange box behind me, and play some Metro Last Light on PC, which I will be doing some game captures of and posting that video. One on the E2KG channel, but also on my own channel. DB, what are you going to be? Actually, not DB. Prime. Yes, Prime. What are you going to be playing next?
Lots of No Man's Sky. That's all.
Okay. Okay, DB, we're going to tell you what you're going to play next. You don't get the option.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things I am going to be playing next is going to be the Madden preview, which I talked about, and also Destiny 2, the Age of whatever it's called, their ramp up to the expansion with has just dropped as well today. So there's new things to do and gear to earn as well. But I have a new assignment, and I've got to be back in a week to tell you guys how this went. So I've got a fast turnaround, so it's going to eat up a lot of my time. So while I am in a sports mode, I want to twist that just a little bit and play some sports games outside of what my normal wheelhouse is. Right? I've played NBA 2K and MLB The Show and Madden. So here are my 3 games that I want to throw at you guys and push my sports boundaries a little bit. So this week is NHL, the NHL 19 hockey, right? There's a beta out until the 2nd, and it usually gets expanded and dragged out a little bit longer, probably for the weekend. So that's one of my games. They got a new engine for skating. Second game is still baseball, but outside of my normal wheelhouse, and it is Out of the Park Baseball, or by the same developer. There's an iOS version called Baseball Manager. And that is basically baseball, the spreadsheet. So it's basically you're the front office guy and you're running all kinds of stuff and you're just getting stats. So it's a lot of box scores and a lot of detail in stats. And then my final sports game for the Nintendo fans out there is Mario Tennis Aces, which we launched last month, and my son has played through it, and so I know that is another game that I would not necessarily be picking up unless I was assigned. So those are my three games, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, gentlemen.
So Prime, I know Swiss's vote, so I'm going to let you voice your vote first.
All right, so I picked NHL 19 Beta just because I haven't played a hockey game in a while, and I want to see how this one is. So we'll see.
All right, well, Prime and I win this week because I also picked NHL 19 Beta. Nice. I want to know what in the heck is a sports game beta even about. I've never heard of such craziness, and I want DBQ to report back on that. Also, because just the NHL series hasn't been. I mean, it used to be like a staple. It was a famous well-known release that would come out every year, and it's kind of faded in the blackness. Not the blackness that NBA Live has been in, but close. So I want to hear how this thing is going, and hear if should I be interested, because this is going to be on EA Origin Access Premier, right? And it's going to be on PC.
No. There's not a PC version of. I thought it was as well, but it is not. Currently, there's not a PC version of NHL and also of NBA Live.
Okay, but it's coming to Xbox One, right?
Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
Okay.
Yep, and it's an open beta right now for anybody, and it's got a variety of modes. So yes, I will dive into that and give you guys some feedback next week.
Okay.
What was Swiss's choice?
So Swiss's choice was he wanted DBQ to play Mario Tennis. Completely understandable. Swiss wanted to hear about not only the sports aspect of it, but also wanted to hear about it as a gamey game. And this has been a recent topic of conversation on our own shows about Mario Tennis and whether or not it's the big summer release and how it doesn't stack up to Splatoon and some of the complaints people have about you can't play tennis with it. You have to play gamey Nintendo kind of tennis, and that now means a different thing. So relevant, interesting, good vote, but you're basic. And so, therefore, Prime and I win out.
Ain't gonna happen.
Right. Stay away from the net. Okay, so great show. Really enjoyed talking to you guys. We're running a little bit over. Plugs. Anybody got any plugs?
No, I got nothing.
DB?
Nope, no plugs here except for whatever that cord is behind you. You need to tighten it up a little bit.
I'm gonna duct tape that. It's actually really short. It's only it looks like it goes up forever, right? But it's literally it ends right above off camera, so it's only about that long. But I'm standing on a pad, and that makes me a little taller. So I have a ton of plugs actually. Rounding Off Infinity is back in full force. I got to talk about this stuff really quick. 4K video is coming up on the channel. I have access to a 4K card, game capture card now. OBS performance and PC performance around the studio has also improved. So even some of the stuff that I'm recording locally is in 4K in some cases. I watch the Star Trek Bridge Crew video featuring the OG game podcaster, Greylock 3491. He and I had a royal, it feels like being in Star Trek. It feels like being on an episode of the show. Game plays wonderfully, and recording it in 4K, we finally got that worked out. So that's posted and available there too. I also just recorded a half dozen videos of Burnout Paradise on the PlayStation 4. I would say the latter three are not great because I didn't do very well. It popped up into the next license class about halfway through, and that class was tougher than what I experienced. So watch the first three videos. Don't watch the three videos where I play badly. And also some new game content is up there. Earthfall is up there. We talked about that last week or maybe a couple weeks ago. Brand new game on PC, plays a lot like Left 4 Dead. I've posted one Overload video, which again is a throwback title for the modern age, as it was created by some of the original developers that were on the Descent franchise. It's a 6 Degree of Freedom game for PC. I'm playing it with the Thrustmaster flight control system. It's great. Check out that one video that's posted, and I'm going to be posting another video later. So that's all the stuff that's up on Rounding Off Infinity. There's more stuff coming. Keep your eyes on it. That's it for us. Thanks so much for joining in on behalf of the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, as well as Gearworks.com, Rounding Off Infinity, Osiris Prime's channel on Mixer, all the crazy stuff that we can be representative of. That's going to do it for us. We're out.